This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop.
Got it.
Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me. Gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy.
Been a long education.
Yeah, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
All right, and welcome to it. It is Monday, my friends, and it's a big week. A big week here on the program, and a lot of things are going to be going on this week. And, we're going to have a lot of big conversations this week that we'll get to and we'll focus on, and we'll start that in a moment. But first, it's the first time in a long time that Michigan State will meet on the football field when both teams are ranked in the country. Michigan State slipped a little bit over the weekend again, despite winning again. They had a tough time with Rutgers, but they won. 2 weeks ago, Michigan State was ranked second, and then they beat Purdue, but it was close. They fell to fourth. And then they beat Rutgers, and it was close, and they fell to seventh. Meanwhile, Michigan racked up their third consecutive shutout. The first time they've had three shutouts back-to-back since 1980. They have risen to 12th in the poll, so it's going to be a big week. Michigan State. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that. In fact, pretty much any time you want to call in during the week and say, here's my prediction for the game, we're going to go ahead and probably let that slide in. Because I am curious, because we can have a lot of serious conversations, and we will, and we do. But for the love of Pete, it's college football. The greatest game ever invented. Because clearly they're still yet to invent professional football in the city of Detroit. Professional football in the city of Detroit is non-existent, so we better focus on college football. Matthew Stafford benched. That's how bad Detroit is right now. 0-5, and things aren't looking any better. 0-5 for the first time since 2008 when they became the only team in NFL history to go 0-16. I thought things were getting better around here. 7 years since that embarrassment, thought things were getting better, and yet, here we are. Anyhow, Michigan State will be at the Big House, Ann Arbor. 3:30 Saturday is the kickoff coming up, and wow, what a contest has been laid out. The Sparty folks saying, listen, we've had a kind of a slow year, and we've had a couple of close calls, but we're going to pound the Wolverines. The Wolverines say, you know what, here we come. We've been embarrassed for a long time. And it's the Michigan defense that's becoming something serious. 3 shutouts in a row is something serious. They're allowing less than a touchdown a game anyhow. So we'll get back to all that. Now, serious things on the horizon. Today on the program, Congressman Bill Huizenga will join us to discuss the departure of Kevin McCarthy from the race to become the next Speaker of the House after John Boehner stepped down. We'll talk about that. Plus, Professor Allan Saxe will be here. Former Michigan Governor John Engler will be joining me here on the program today discussing the gridlock in Washington and how it can be addressed. We'll have Congressman Mike Bishop as well here today. He'll be introducing a bill in Congress that would reduce mandatory minimum sentences for prior drug felons and certain firearm offenders. Plus, Tim Stout, the Dean of Sports, will be here to wrap up our discussion on Michigan State, at least for today. It won't wrap up until next week, but for today we'll have him here, and different guests all week long related to the big football game, so keep that in mind. All righty then. Michigan Governor Rick Snyder and other state leaders will convene meetings this week in an effort to identify what can be done to prevent the kind of mass shootings that have become all too common over the past many years. The most recent attack left 9 people dead on the campus of Umpqua Community College in Roseburg, Oregon. This week, Governor Snyder will be talking to a variety of experts and folks about how that kind of deadly rampage can be stopped before it ever happens here in Michigan. Snyder will be taking a look at several issues. One of those key issues will be the question of so-called gun-free zones. Gun-free zones on the governor's agenda this week. Pro-gun groups have often pointed to evidence that mass killings at places like the movie theater in Aurora, Colorado, and the Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut almost always occur where firearms are banned. Other high-profile shootings in gun-free zones, including the assault on a military recruiting station in Chattanooga, the D.C. Navy Yard shooting, and the murder of Christians at a Bible study in Charleston, South Carolina, all occurred in places where guns are not allowed. One of the experts that will be sitting down this week with Governor Snyder is Dr. John Lott, a nationally recognized academic who has evaluated gun and crime statistics for many years. Lott, who was a professor at Yale and the University of Chicago, among other places, is one of the nation's leading critics of anti-gun groups and politicians like President Barack Obama on what he considers misguided attempts to limit and ban guns altogether. Lott, who you hear on this program on a regular basis, taught at the University of Chicago at the same time Obama was a part-time instructor there. He says Obama told him, "I don't think anyone should have guns." Lott has also done statistical analysis of FBI crime stats and written several books, including the national bestseller, More Guns, Less Crime. Anti-gun groups like Michael Bloomberg's Everytown often target Lott for his books and opinions. However, it seems Governor Rick Snyder values Lott's opinion on the subject of guns in America and more specifically gun-free zones. He will be arriving in Lansing to meet with the governor and State Senator Mike Green. Among others, that'll happen Tuesday. As I mentioned, Lott is a regular here on the program, which is available to people statewide. And you wonder why the governor made a decision to meet with John Lott. Well, take your time. Michigan will join a host of other states in reviewing the role of gun-free zones when it comes to mass shootings. I mean, if they keep happening in the same places, then it's probably a pretty good conversation to have, wouldn't you think? And Dr. John Lott, who, he's the focus of a lot of ire, a lot of anger. Focus of John Lott in his conversations in his books. But we commend the governor for talking to a man who took the emotion out of the shootings and discusses the statistics. Mathematics has no emotion, just facts. And I'm going to take that to dovetail onto an unusual story. Over the weekend, a neighbor said an altercation between a man who fired at police with a crossbow and then was shot and killed lasted only a few moments. "I saw a little shuffling and then bang," said Kevin Schultz. Schultz said the deadly police shooting and the wounding of a 13-year veteran of the Montcalm County Sheriff's Department here in Michigan happened several hours after the neighbor made threats to his family. The deputy, who has yet to be named, was shot by the 40-year-old man wielding a crossbow. As 4 officers went to his home to arrest him for assault, a state trooper then shot and killed the man. Schultz said the harrowing scene played out just 50 feet from the home he shares with his father, Tim. That's on Town Line Lake Road near Lakeview. He could see the neighbor's house from the light inside and witnessed the man's wife open the door for police at about 11:50. That happened on Friday, late. I thought I could see a cop drop. Then I saw a muzzle flash. Yeah, he shot the cop with a crossbow. Anyhow, the police officer is recovering, luckily. Just a little something that happened. It is Monday here on the Steve Gruber Show. Welcome to it. We'll be right back.
Keeping you in touch with Michigan and the world.
Monday morning, welcome to it. It's the Steve Gruber Show. What is your prediction for Michigan State? I'll be taking those all week. 888-900-9966. 888-900-9966. Get on the board. Tell us what you think. I guess the line right now is Michigan by a touchdown. Michigan came out at like 4, and then it was 5.5, and it's either 6.5 or 7 points now. Michigan favored to win against Michigan State coming up this weekend at the Big House. Now, Moving on to some politics this morning. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, your favorite and mine, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the Democratic National Chair, asked about Bernie Sanders and socialism over the weekend. You know, what does it mean? Is it okay if he's your party's nominee? Of course, this is the same woman that could not explain the difference between a Democrat and a socialist when asked here not too many weeks ago. And I'm guessing she still doesn't know the answer. Here's her answer, however, on Bernie Sanders.
Believe that Bernie Sanders could beat any Republican?
I believe that any one of our candidates will stand in stark contrast when it comes to the priorities of the American people and how they're going to make the decision on who they vote for president to any of the Republican candidates. The Republicans have been trying to outright wing one another. Look, between the 15 Republican candidates that are left, all of whom are trying to out-Trump Donald Trump by saying, yeah, let's kick women, let's kick immigrants out of this country, let's take away health care from women, you know, let's increase taxes on the middle class to pay for tax cuts for the wealthy, let's end Medicare as we know it. Yes, I think any of the candidates on our side of the aisle who are talking about job creation, making sure we can expand access to health care. Stop.
Enough. Apparently, if you're a conservative or if you're a Republican, you want to kick immigrants and women out of the country. I don't want to kick women out of the country. Well, I can think of one that I might ask to leave, Debbie. But I like women as a general rule. I'm just leave it at that. You kick. I mean, the fact that these people say this unchallenged, that the person doing the interview doesn't laugh and go, "Come on." The rhetoric's over the top. Want to kick immigrants and women out of the country. Want to, take away women's health care and destroy the middle class. I mean, really? And the interviewer just sits there drooling on themselves. Oh, yeah, here we go. Donald Trump was on Face the Nation yesterday on the other side of the coin. Paul Ryan's name, Congressman Paul Ryan from Wisconsin, who ran as the vice presidential pick in 2012 with Mitt Romney, being maybe the uniter in the House. People say all Republicans can rally around Paul Ryan. Here's what Donald Trump had to say on Face the Nation.
Well, I think he's somebody that could get good support. I think he's a very nice person. I think he doesn't want it very badly, but you never know. Maybe he's playing one of the great games of all time. It is Speaker of the House. I mean, it's a great position. But he doesn't seem to want it. But I'll bet you that if it was actually offered to him, he would take it.
You said you want somebody strong. Is Paul Ryan strong?
I think he's strong. I disagree with some of the things. I think that when Mitt Romney chose him last time, it was a tough choice because he's been so anti-Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security in a sense. Now, he would say he hasn't been, but they certainly played that up hard. And that was a disastrous campaign for a lot of reasons. But Paul Ryan's a good man. I know him very little, but I think he's a very good person.
So there you have it. And then Trump went on to say, here's the problem. Republicans don't win often enough. They just don't win anymore. Go ahead with the next bite there.
The Republicans never win. John, they never win. Everything, whether it's on Obamacare, whether it's on the debt ceiling, no matter what we have, there's never, ever a victory. So we need a toughness that we just don't have there right now.
And then the question came up about being a false prophet. When John Boehner resigned, he talked about false prophets in the Republican Party making promises that couldn't possibly be kept. And so John Dickerson points that question at Donald Trump. Here's what he had to say about that.
When he says false prophets, you cannot win when you have a group of 25 or 30% on this side and you have a group of 70% on this side saying we're never going to go along with the 30%ers who want more. That's what's happening. And every time I watch it, I say it's so sad because if they were really unified and if they took that 30% stance, assuming they wanted to really make changes and do it right and cut the budget, cut the deficit, do things that they should be doing, if they took that group and if everybody was unified, Obama would fold. But there's no reason for him to ever fold because he knows that a big proportion, a vast majority of the Republicans are on his side.
Yeah, because he hasn't suffered a setback yet. He hasn't lost anything yet. You know, his cell phone and his pen have worked just fine on the Trans-Pacific Partnership, on what he's done with Syria, his deal on nuclear weapons and so forth in the nation of Iran. Barack Obama hasn't lost anywhere. You know, the big election last November 2014, that was going to change everything and turn everything around, it hasn't meant doodly squat. It hasn't stopped anything. And maybe that's where Paul Ryan would come in. Paul Ryan is a fighter. He's a scrapper. He's a conservative, and he's kind of a policy wonk. He's a wonky guy. who focuses on the numbers and how things will actually work and whether Social Security will be here in 20 years and Medicaid and Medicare, and if we can reduce this $18.5 trillion debt and put America back on good financial footing again. Those are the things that mean a lot to Paul Ryan. So later today, in fact, coming up in just a few minutes here, we'll have Congressman Bill Huizenga with us. Congressman Huizenga from West Michigan will be here to discuss the end of the bid by Kevin McCarthy, which came as a bit of a surprise, but there is some dirt out there floating around that Kevin McCarthy may have been having an affair. He may have been having an affair, and it didn't sound unlike what we had witnessed here in Michigan recently between Todd Corser and Cindy Gamrat. There might have been something along that line with another member of Congress. So with that in mind, Kevin McCarthy dropped out, and again, the only name that's coming to the surface, Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan seems to be the name. Well, you could vote for me. I mean, there is that possibility, because if you didn't realize, if you didn't hear this part before, anybody can be Speaker of the House. Anybody that can get 218 votes. You don't have to be a member of Congress. You don't have to be a member of the House. You have to be an American. I think. I'm not even sure if that's has to be true. Anybody can be Speaker of the House, I think. Anyhow, we'll talk with Congressman Bill Huizenga in just a moment here on the Steve Gruber Show.
Delivering Michigan common sense with a big dose of truth and honesty.
I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down.
All righty, 45 after the hour on a Monday. Continuing with our analysis here as to what's going to happen next. I don't think that my run for Speaker of the House is probably going to get the kind of momentum it really needs. So we have to look at other viable alternatives. With us now, Professor Allan Saxe, Professor of Political Science at the University of Texas, Arlington. Professor, welcome back to the program.
Good morning. I don't think the public cares one whit about who the Speaker of the House is. They don't even know there is such a thing as a Speaker of the House.
Right, so I can go ahead and do it then. If I get the 218 votes.
Absolutely. And I'll be your whip.
No, you'll be my whip, all right. I'm going to tell you, hey, Professor, get this. Professor, hey, what are you doing? Anyhow, does it matter? I don't know, but it matters insofar as getting things done, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Because as far as what's going on since...
But if you go out and you ask people, they just don't know. They just don't know.
No, and since November of 2014,
that's right.
Nothing has happened of any value that I can figure out. I mean, Obama continues to win and win and win, and the Republicans, who apparently were going to be in charge, having no luck whatsoever.
Absolutely, the Republican Party is guilty of everything that its critics from within its own party say about them. It's a bunch of establishment people. I hear a lot of our congressmen here in Texas, Republicans, and they go on the air and they say, I have a new tax plan. I have a new tax plan. I have this. And I'm saying, who cares? It's not going to go anywhere. It doesn't mean anything. I'm being very cynical, but it's true. And these are people that I genuinely like in a way, but you know it's not going to have any bearing whatsoever on anything. But they come on and they pretend that they're doing something, and you just want to scream at that,
So let me ask you about one of these big victories that the president had here recently. That was the Iran negotiations, right? And now there's this, this revelation that's come forward that in order to release the sanctions against Iran, the president would have to violate his own laws that he signed in, federal law that he signed in 2012. So he can only release the sanctions by violating his own law. Some of the Republicans have found. Yes, I mean, you hadn't heard that. You need to look that one up. So I'm curious as to how that's going to work. But the point being is the president does as he wants, when he wants, with little regard to whether it violates laws or doesn't violate laws, because he's never, there's one thing the Republicans have not done, held this president accountable for much of anything.
Oh, absolutely correct. In fact, the Investors Business Daily over the weekend had a very good article about all the scandals that have happened in this administration. None of them have come to any fruition. None of them, because the Republican Party just refuses to do anything about it. And I think part of it is, this is going to be controversial, is racial. They're afraid to go after him. And in fact, and I'm not just saying, this for kicks or whatever it is, I'm hunting for the right word, a very prominent Republican congressman, I'm throwing names around, several years ago, I asked this individual a question. I said, it was a particular issue. I said, why don't you go after the president on this? And he turned to me and said, we don't want to be accused of being racists. That was exactly his words.
Yeah.
And when a Republican congressman says that they're fearful of going after the president, and this was over 2 years ago, it was in the summer, maybe it was close to 3 years ago during the summertime, and we're afraid to go after him because we don't want to be accused of being racist. So the president has benefited much from that. A lot of his allies say that he's been put upon because of race, and I think there may be a small degree of truth in that, but a larger amount is that it has kept him from being attacked by people that normally they would have gone after him with a tremendous amount of fury. And I'm talking about the media as well as the Republican Party and from within his own Democratic Party. A lot of people have to remember that when Richard Nixon was booted out of office, it was because of what the Republicans did. The Republicans went to see Richard Nixon, who was a long-time Republican, and said, Mr. President, it's time for you to go. That would never happen today if it was in the Democratic Party.
No, no chance at all, period. It would never happen because, well, first of all, they would never admit they've done anything wrong, period.
And yet the country today is in terrible decline. In foreign politics, as a lot of people know, and President Obama's interview last night with on 60 Minutes sort of reveals that he is just not even aware. He doesn't grasp what is going on in the world.
He's leading the world in global climate change diversion stuff.
That's right.
Professor. Come on.
He doesn't understand it. It is, somebody made the comment, I think it may have been somebody 8-9 months ago, and they had it exactly right. In regard to foreign politics, our allies don't trust us, and our enemies do not fear us. Boy, has that never been truer than under this administration.
So hold on. Let me go back to something here. Let's go back to the top of this section here. And just, Paul Ryan, you say nobody cares who is the Speaker of the House. But I do actually think that Paul Ryan, coming into a leadership position, because he is well known, because he ran for Vice President of the United States, because he has seen as a leader, and he's a policy wonk, a guy who really gets it, and a guy who can understand finances and so forth, I do think he would make a tremendous difference. I think that he would unify the Republican Party, and finally, I do believe it's possible that the wheels could start to turn finally, and the Republicans could actually, gasp, get something done.
I think you may be right, but what is even more telling, or as telling, is that he doesn't seem to want it. He's sort of the reluctant speaker.
It's a horrible job. He has kids. It's a horrible job. Well, I guess we'll find out. Professor, always a pleasure. You have to do a little bit of homework before next week so we can find out more about this whole conflict in laws that could block the president from implementing the Iran deal. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Professor Allan Saxe, everybody, here on the Steve Gruber Show. It's the Monday edition. We'll be right back.